Today's podcast is brought to you by the Monkey Method app. This is an app brought to you by Power Monkey, and what we've done with this app is really exciting. We're really proud of it. Something we've been working on for a number of years. It basically allows for skill development plans to be put into place in one easy to follow along format. We have over 1,200 videos in there that are free to access. Even if you don't buy one of the plans, they're always there in the palm of your hand, very easily accessible technique videos. Along with that, we have a bunch of gymnastics and weightlifting plans in there that are all assessment based. So it's not a one size fits all plan. You can go in there, do the assessment, and figure out what category, what level you are based in according to what your starting point looks like. You'll have a tailored program, something that's a little bit more individualized. I'm really proud of it and hope you guys take advantage of it. Hey everyone, welcome to another Power Monkey podcast. On today's episode, Chad and I interview Cole Sager. Cole is a 6-time CrossFit Games competitor, finishing 5th back in 2016. He was also a collegiate football player at the University of Washington and has transitioned now into being a full-time CrossFit athlete. We go into some of the topics that are in the CrossFit scene right now with the changes happening with CrossFit headquarters, the new announcement of the CEO, what it means for CrossFit, what it means for the games, and what it means for these athletes that are looking to go compete this summer at the CrossFit Games, 2020 CrossFit Games that are a little bit in limbo right now. Cole is a really introspective athlete. He thinks a lot about the people around him and his impact, not only as a competitor, but what it's going to do for the people around him. And I think you guys will learn some things about what it means to be an athlete that thinks a little bit more beyond just what happens on the competition floor. Enjoy it. Welcome, Cole, man. It's great to have you on the Power Monkey podcast. We are very, very fortunate to have you on. We always like having, some of the big celebrity guests from the CrossFit community, and we appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm excited to chat with you guys.
So with everything going on right now, we kind of just want to get some updates on where people are at and how they've been handling at least the lockdown situation, the COVID situation, and kind of how that's been playing out in your life right now.
Yeah, 2020, what a year, huh?
Only halfway through, too.
I know. This has definitely been a year for the history books, and I was joking with my wife the other day. This is definitely one of those years when I am 70 and 80 years old. I'm going to look back on it and be telling stories about to grandkids and whatnot. And yeah. So, but no, with the coronavirus and the pandemic situation that we're all facing worldwide and globally, I have actually been relatively unaffected, and that I am very, very grateful for. I know, I've had, and talking with a lot of people, there's been a lot of people who have struggled through this or had some difficulties, whether it be economically or even with their health. But we have been very fortunate, and I'm probably one of the fortunate few in the CrossFit space who has a full setup in their garage. I mean, I have 90+% of all the equipment that I need to get my training done. So that has been really, really nice. And if anything, the coronavirus just kind of forced us deeper into our routine. It's like all the little fringe things that we would normally go see friends or whatever. Those just got set to the side, and we're happy to abide by that. Whatever we can do to do our part to get onto the other side of this. We're happy to do that. So yeah, we just haven't left the house for whatever was this 11 weeks now. So
yeah. Have you changed up your training at all? I mean, considering that things are kind of in flux right now with what's going to be happening with the games and moving forward and preparations for what would have been kind of ramping up to the biggest part of your competition season. Have you had to change anything, or have you looked at a different kind of periodization in terms of where you are within your training cycle right now?
Yeah, so we actually did we went through, and as soon as the stay at home, stay in place order was kind of set on the country, Ben and I, Ben Bergman, for those who don't know, he's my coach, for anyone listening in, but Ben and I kind of sat down together and said, well, we don't really know what's going to happen with the games. Some of the competitions that we were going to do were canceled or postponed. And with that, it's like, how would you like to use this extra time, and how do you want to periodize for the competitive season moving forward? And so we did. We changed things up a little bit than what we would normally do. And we went into more of a strength building phase, something that you would normally see us do early on in the year. Put a little bit more focus on some of the Olympic lifts, an area that I'm typically pretty weak in for how big and how strong I am. It's something that I've struggled with throughout the years in comparison to my cohorts. So we're like, let's spend some extra time there. I think that we can afford to do that. We'll back off on conditioning a little bit for a while. And once the season gets a little bit more solidified, we'll jump back into some conditioning. Something, conditioning is easier to pick up on. That comes back quicker than other areas. So,
sure.
Hey, speak for yourself there, Cole.
Fair enough.
When you have zero conditioning,
right,
then that's a different story.
Yeah, then it's a different story. It takes a while to build, and it's painful.
Yep.
So, so we spent that time, and that was the last 2.5 months we've been on that, and we are now just getting on the other side of that. The Rogue Invitational, which we did last weekend, that was the turning point, and we are planning for that. Is once the Rogue Invitational passes, we'll get back into focusing on fitness, being as fit as we possibly can for the rest of the season, and then we'll peak for the games once we get the final date on that, whenever that comes.
Sure. Well, yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about the Rogue Invitational. I mean, that was the first kind of chance for all of you guys to compete again in a format that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And, it was a little bit uncertain as to whether or not it was going to be, run smoothly. And I mean, I think Rogue did an amazing job with it, but I'm curious from an athlete perspective, how you guys felt being there without spectators, without like seeing someone next to you, knowing where you are in terms of the actual workout itself. How'd you feel doing it in your own gym as opposed to doing this in a normal competition format?
Yeah, and it's funny, the Rogue Invitational, just like, I was not surprised at how well ran it ended up being. It's just kind of, the statement I use is, it's just Rogue doing Rogue things. They do everything so well, and they put together such a cool event. And I got a lot of great feedback from people who were watching, spectators, and just saying that they were so impressed with the spectator experience, especially it being a broadcast worldwide, done from individual cameras and phones, wherever we could and whatever we could use in order to broadcast live. So as far as doing the competition live in our own spaces, that was a unique, it was just a unique layer, because one of the things that they didn't want is they didn't want any sound. So there's no music, there's no, you could have people in your space, but you had, they were very, very clear about making sure that we were adhering to social distancing guidelines. That was something that I really respected about Rogue, is like, they made that very clear. And then they didn't want noise from fans. And the reason why is because if you had that many feedback from all of those cameras, it would really make the broadcast difficult to navigate. And what video feed should we jump into if people are making too much noise? And they also wanted to get that natural sound from the athletes. There's something that's really cool about the sound of somebody suffering. That, like, if you can jump into that and get that authentic feel, it's really cool. And I think they did a good job. But I went back and watched a couple of the workouts, and I thought they did a really good job with that. For me, though, I train in my garage 95% of the time anyways on a regular season, and now it's 100% of the time. So I'm very comfortable in my space, and that's where I was able to do it. I was able to do it in my own space with all my own equipment in the garage. But for me, that actually, when I look back at the weekend, I was almost a little too comfortable with my own space. There's something that I really, really enjoy about getting out in a competitive sphere, getting out onto a competition floor, that whether you're nervous, you want to call it nerves or not, there's just something special about being on that floor that drives something from deep within. And I really feed off that. I really like that. And I love being next to the presence of other athletes. I want to feel their energy. I want to feel how they feel. Are you intimidated? Are you nervous? Do you look confident? I want to feed off that, and I want to work on that, And so that element was certainly missing from the competition. But at the same time, you knew that the athletes were still going at the same time. And that was the coolest part. It's different when you're doing an open workout where you can do it, and you can retry, and you can stop, restart whenever you want. But to start and know that potentially 2,000 miles away, there's another person doing the same workout against you real time, that like starts to play in your psyche, and it starts like, okay, well, I got to push harder here and I got to push harder here. And it just, it was a really cool, it definitely changed the way that I feel about my space. And I've even learned some things about how I need to refocus and my intention when I'm training in the garage. So it was a lot of fun.
Super interesting. I got one more question, Chad, before you jump in there, because when I was watching it, I was asking myself these same questions. And if there were a couple situations where the athlete was in the lead, like Sam Briggs on the snatch workout was so far ahead of everybody that it was absurd, right?
Yeah.
In that situation, would you want to be told that you were already winning and that you've got your 100 points and that you can kind of stop? Or would you prefer to say, let me see how far I can kick everyone's else ass in this workout and just kind of put up that number that's untouchable? But it's like, if you don't know, it's just you and nobody's telling you. It's like, do I keep going because I think someone might be able to challenge me on this? It's like, it's just like unknown.
But see, so that's one of the things that, like, when I told myself in workout scenarios like that, the way that I approached it was like, if Ben told me you're going to go into you can't anymore in a training environment, that's what you would do. Mm-hmm. And so in a competitive environment, you almost have that same mentality. I'm just going to go as hard as I can and make sure that it's certain. Not to mention, most of us are just competitive people. Like we have that edge. We have just something that just like ticks over in our mind that says like, okay, even if people are done, can I do more? And you're hungry to find out, and you have that curiosity. And I think that's what makes a lot of people competitive. It's more so like, it's like, can I do it? It's like a curiosity more than it is this competitive edge. It's like, I want to see what I'm capable of. So I think most athletes would just keep going anyways. Even if they were told like, hey, you got your 100 points, they'd still go,
I think we saw that with Tia, right? Because Tia had won the clean and jerk, and she's like, no, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do 270, and I'm going to show everybody else out there. It was, so I definitely
make
see
it
that.
Clear.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, hard to pull back for sure. And, that's that characteristic that you speak of, Kohler, that it really takes people to that level. I think you almost have to have that characteristic. You don't want to shut it down. But, ultimately through that competition, Cole, how'd you feel about, your performance and the overall results?
I was actually, so it's tough because like from a public eye and a public perspective, fans will get used to performances from athletes being in certain levels, certain positions. This is a top 3 athlete. This is a podium athlete. They should be up here. And I definitely was not where a lot of people would expect me to be at the end of the competition. But for the most part, I pulled out exactly what I expected. And like I told you guys, we reshifted my training for the last 2.5 months leading up to that very intentionally. Like that was the whole plan. And I'm not making any excuses for the competition, but I know that I didn't have my best conditioning in me. We had other focuses and other things that we had been working on. So with that, like I approach every competition. It was just like, one, how can I make the best experience of this? Like, how can I enjoy this to the best of my ability? Because at the end of the day, when I'm 70 or 80, like I was saying, I'm going to look back on the experiences. Like, I'm not going to look back at the accomplishment necessarily. I'm going to tell the stories, the way that I felt, the things that I saw. So I'm always, whenever I jump into a competitive sphere, that's what I'm looking for. Like, how can I make this the best experience possible? And then how can I make sure that I am giving everything I have, 100%, 120%? What can I do to make sure that I'm giving everything I have? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be proud of that effort. I'm going to be proud of, as long as I give my best to give everything that I do. And one of the things that I tell people all the time is you can only perform to the level of your preparation. It's that simple. If you prepared for it and you are prepared, you're going to perform really well. But if you are not preparing for that performance, you're only going to perform to the best of your, to the level of your preparation. So, I don't get too caught up in that. I don't get too caught up in results. It is what it is. And you take that, you learn from it, and you move forward. And, like I told you guys right after Rogue, training changed, and we're back into a different phase. And I'm excited to see where that pulls out and what that takes me moving forward the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's a great outlook for sure. And that's really where, I hope all athletes get, and it takes some experience to get to that point where, like you said, you don't really worry about the results too much. So you just do the best you can. And it's so easy to say that. So easy to say that. So hard for most athletes to understand until you've gone through a certain amount of competition and, you overcome those negative thoughts and those, that desire to want to do good for other people and all that stuff. Dave, you and I talk about that a lot, but so that's great that you're at that point in your career. And, obviously you're all in with CrossFit. It sounds like you love it. You're having a great time with it. But if you Google Cole Sager, you're going to see a whole lot of football stuff come up. And I have probably too many questions about football for you. So if I'm going too long,
I could talk all day.
Yeah, you guys shut me down on that. But I love football. I miss football to this day. I just turned 40 not too long ago, so I haven't played since high school, over 20 years, and I still dream about high school football.
Totally.
Is that something that you miss as well, Cole?
Yeah, this is really interesting because over the last 2 years, probably, I've really begun to miss it. The first few years when, for a lot of people, they find a competitive edge in CrossFit when they start competing in CrossFit, and that satisfies the competitive edge. But for me, it was more so about, it was like a bad breakup of a relationship, my first sport love.
Yeah.
Is kind of what it was. And so like my heart ached more so when I finished playing, more so than I didn't have my competitive edge anymore, or, space to compete. And now I found it in CrossFit. So I'm all in on that. It was like, and it absolutely was like that. Don't get me wrong. I have absolutely enjoyed doing that. And like you said, like I'm all in CrossFit. I am loving it. I think the reason why CrossFit was such a good fit, like let's just touch base on that, was because I was the guy that like, if we had to do 2-a-days, I wanted to pull a 3-a-day then. If we had if we only had one workout, well, I got to get another one in. Like I was a gym rat to the point where some of my strength coaches were like, can you get out of here? You should go rest or something, So I was totally cool with that. I wanted to be the workhorse, and I wanted to make my statement to the coaches of like, I will work harder than anyone else on the team. I may not have the best skill, I may not have the best talent, but I will work for that. And I will work for whatever playing time, whatever I get, So I think that's why the transition was so easy for me. But yeah, no, when I finished playing ball, that was very much, it was just I had a little sense of a little bit of a broken heart, and just the way that the business worked, the way that some of the leadership that we had at the University of Washington just kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. And it wasn't that my passion for the sport left, because I could, like, for years trying to watch football. I didn't watch football on TV for years afterwards. And it was because I was so enamored with the X's and O's that I would watch a play and I would want to break it down like I'm watching game film, and I couldn't get into the enjoyment, the entertainment aspect of it. So I was like, I'm going to step away, and I would rather go visit with friends than, have my mind be wrapped up in that way. And I'm getting to the point now where I can just watch a game and zone out and just enjoy it. And it's fun, but over the last couple of years, I've definitely started missing it. I find myself cutting and juking, in old ways that I used to, just even if I'm just walking around the house, I'll juke a shadow, and so I definitely miss it from that standpoint. I miss the hand-eye coordination aspect of it, something that we don't really get in CrossFit. So, whenever Genesee and I she played college softball, so she loves throwing the softball, or even she can throw a football just like any of my guy friends. So that is actually really, it's really fun and really attractive. So we'll do that from time to time, and that feels really good, so, but yeah, no, definitely starting to miss it a lot. So.
Yeah, that's funny. I juke whenever I have the opportunity as well, just with my dogs and with my daughter and stuff like that. So and I didn't play anywhere near as long as you do, but I still have a hard time watching football on TV at all, just because I want to play. I miss it so bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to pad up against you, Cole, but I wouldn't mind padding up against someone.
Yeah.
But I wonder. You obviously played through high school, played through college.
Mm-hmm.
Has CrossFit been a sufficient replacement? Is it something that you love as much?
Yes, it has been, and I think twofold. I think as I've aged and just gotten older, I have found a new love for health and fitness. Like wanting to be healthy, wanting to inspire people from that perspective. Even when I was playing football, one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to look physically like I played football. I wanted, there's some guys who are phenomenal at football. They amazing talents, but they take the pads off and they don't quite look like you would expect them to look underneath the pads. And I wanted to also represent that. I wanted to be the healthiest that I could possibly be as a football player. Like and that was just mainly knowing because back then, prior to CrossFit really helping redefine what fitness is in amongst the world, football players were some of the athletes that were kind of at the pinnacle of what fitness looked like, and so I wanted to represent that physically as well. Like I wanted to embody like, okay, well, a lot of football players, they look at like you're muscular, you're strong, you're fit, you're athletic, like you have all of these talents and abilities. I wanted to also have that on the inside. I also wanted to have like that sort of conditioning as well, right? So that was in me when I was playing football. And then when I got outside of that and started to do that on a regular basis, like I told you, like I love to practice, right? Like I loved the training aspect of football because I loved every part of it. And, again, I think that speaks a little bit to why it was such a heartbreak to stop playing. And that was more so just because like I loved all of it. Like I put my whole self into it. And so because I loved the training aspect of it so much, I was like, I get to do that for a sport? Cool. Like, let's do that, So yeah, I think that, it could never replace what I had for football, but I have a deep passion and love for CrossFit. And I also, because of what it could do, and that is actually why I got into CrossFit in the first place, is because it was a pivot essentially into how can I use the skills and abilities that I have to leverage a platform in order to bring hope into people's life, to speak, hope and encourage people, and maybe chase something that is so big and audacious that it causes somebody to step out of their comfort zone and chase something big and audacious. And, what if we can use that butterfly? What if we all did? What if we use that butterfly effect of just our actions and intents of chasing something so big that people are like, oh, maybe I can dare to dream a little bit bigger. Maybe I can live a little bit broader. And so that was very much why I pivoted to CrossFit in the first place. Like, I have a lot of these skills and abilities naturally. What if we leverage them? What if we use this platform? And so when I pivoted to CrossFit, I've told this story to a lot of people, but when I pivoted to CrossFit, it was 100% with the intent to go to the CrossFit Games. It wasn't like I stepped into a CrossFit gym or I did a CrossFit workout with a buddy and I fell in love. And as soon as I started doing the workouts, like, yeah, I loved it. Like, I absolutely did fall in love. But I chose to go to the CrossFit Games before I had ever done a workout. So it was just a different perspective in the way that I had when I started.
Wow, that's cool that you did that because my first official CrossFit workout was I don't know if you guys remember this, but back in maybe 2009, I think 2009, 2010. I think 2010, USA Weightlifting and CrossFit did a combination weightlifting meet, and
kidding.
CrossFit. Yeah, it was the coolest thing, really. And I wish that they would have kept it up, but they only did it 1 year. For some reason, they kind of fell apart. Maybe they didn't see eye to eye or whatever. But I did that competition, and
Cool.
I hadn't done any CrossFit other than I'd practiced double unders a little bit. I made sure that I could do some kipping pull-ups, but I hadn't actually done a CrossFit WOD until that competition. And I didn't know what I was getting into, so it just reminded me of that because I went from first place, obviously coming out of the weightlifting segment, to almost last place. And those are the overall, and those are the only two things that we did. So it's interesting to me to hear that you went in without ever doing a workout, planning to go to the CrossFit Games, and a CrossFit workout didn't deter you from that. So
Yeah.
very interesting. Now, you talk about spending a lot of time in the weight room, and in the weight rooms of college, in a college football weight room, NFL weight room as well, you see some incredibly impressive athletes, and it makes me wonder, do you have one or two, one or two instances that might be the most impressive strength feats that you've seen?
As far as in the weight room goes in college?
Yep.
Well, one or two, yes, absolutely. I mean, I saw a guy bench 500 pounds, like just offhandedly because he could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
defensive lineman, but I don't care.
Right.
Just watching that
Right.
and relatively untrained, right? It was just raw power that he had, and it was just so
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal to see. And it also scares the living daylights out of you, knowing that you're a fullback and you have to go up against that guy.
Yeah. Right.
So there's absolutely that. But it was some of the things that I love seeing was and the way that I see it now is, these guys neurologically just have to be able to fire their muscles so much more efficiently than other guys, because there's 165, 185 pound cornerback who could power clean 405. And it just blew my mind. And he looked like a physical specimen in all realms of, he ran a 4.3 40, could power clean 405, and looked like like an action figure, and just to see that physical prowess in person was motivating, inspiring. It was absolutely incredible. And I tell people that all the time, like playing college football, I saw what the pinnacle of athleticism looks like, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's amazing. And really, through my career, as I was going to the Olympics and weightlifting and snatching and clean and jerking, what I did, I always had in the back of my mind understanding that there are college football players out there my size, like you say, 165, 185, and then athletes in the NFL as well. Like you said, this guy 165, 185 could power clean 405. I can't come anywhere near power cleaning 405. Yes, I clean and jerked a little bit more than that, but these guys, like you said, are trained in football and they're trained in the weight room, but they're untrained power lifters, bench press. They're untrained Olympic lifters. And
Totally.
I knew that. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this and I'm the best in the country and I went to the Olympics, but I'm not the most talented athlete in the US anywhere near. So, it's been really cool to see that CrossFit has brought us some of those extremely talented athletes. I mean, CJ Cummings would, if he was a college football player, he would be, that guy power cleaning 405, so I love that that's happening and things are turning around, and that you have fell into CrossFit now, and that you're doing what you're doing. Maybe one more question, Dave, just kind of along these lines and jump back in. But I wonder, talking about those feats, who in CrossFit impresses you the most?
Oh, just along those lines, Chandler Smith is actually really impressive to me. He looking at him, and it's maybe because he reminds me so much of the individuals that I had become so close with, and I had grown with over the 4 years of college football, who just had this raw power about him. And watching Chandler Smith operate, he just has raw power, and that is just like, there's something just that you get excited about when you see that untrained raw power. It is really, really cool. And like I told you, it's really inspiring. And that's something that I really enjoy being around. Like, I want to see people who are pushing the limits of human potential, because I want to know, like, oh, that's possible. Then I'm going to work towards it. Whether it's possible for me down the road or not, whether I get there or not, like, it gives me something to work towards. And that's what's inspiring for me. So I want to I want to be surrounded by individuals that just boggle my mind, and also the other thing is seeing people who don't look like they would have aerobic capacity, have aerobic capacity.
Right.
That, and being technically sound in whether in the Olympic lifts or in gymnastics, which either one, it's like, it's really cool because I know that takes discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing that I think that's what I love about CrossFit, honestly, is, in the first few years of doing CrossFit, I used to tell people, you just wait until ex-college athletes really start to get into the space.
Right.
You just wait, because you guys have not seen athletes yet. You like, oh man, like, but fast forward 5 more years and we still haven't really seen that develop. And I do think that it will come.
Yeah.
But one of the things about that is, with CrossFit, where you excel is in your discipline in the small mundane things, is being technically sound, is having the skill set, is developing those aspects of it, doing the things that just aren't sexy. Like, honestly, raw power is really cool and it looks great on Instagram. It really does. But practicing technique and making sure that you can clean and jerk over 400, over 405, because you're technically sound. You may not have the raw power, but you're technically sound. Like, that's not as fun to watch,
Right.
And that's what I love about CrossFit, is because, like I told you guys before, you perform to a level of your preparation, and that's where a lot of the preparation separates individuals. Is, are they willing to put the time in there? Are they willing to work on their kipping muscle up, their chest to bars, their cycling, whatever it is, like, that's where things start to separate. And so, this, I think the athletes that you wouldn't expect to excel in an area that do, those are the most impressive ones to me.
Yep.
So, Cole, I love football as well. I didn't play football in my life, thank goodness. I think I would have just disintegrated if I came across someone like you. But I love football, and I actually could talk about football for quite a bit longer, but we might have to do another podcast specifically for that.
We can do that.
But I wanted to ask you, because even just talking to you here and, seeing you on Instagram, seeing social media and on YouTube and things like that, you're a very thoughtful athlete. And I think you seem to train and compete for more than just yourself, with kind of an intention behind why you're training, not just to end up on a podium or to be competing at the CrossFit Games, but like you said, one, to reach your maximum human potential. Great, of course, but also to leave kind of a positive wake and to try to influence and impact the people around you in a much more positive way. And I'm curious kind of how you envision your core values as an athlete and as a person kind of manifesting itself through your athletic ability.
Yeah, I've told people a lot, like, I'm not so enamored by the accomplishments as much as who I am as an individual in pursuit of those accomplishments. And that's what I really think that, is the most important. I say this all the time, that, like, at the end of the day, what I do and how I pursue this, that matters to me, because if I can change just one life, the trajectory of one person, and where they go, then all of this has been worth it to me. It's just one life. And I think that when you talk about the values, and I think that because I mean, I'm very much a faith-based guy. And I think what that has stemmed is this deep passion and understanding of the value of a human life. And that's something that really resonates with me. And, some experiences growing up with just some friends, and some friends that I had along the way, just really drove home this sense of how important one single life is, and how I don't want anybody to feel like their life was ever wasted. And one of the things I hate more than anything is watching somebody give up on themselves or give up on their dream. And it's so interesting because you can see somebody who has this clear vision of where they want to go, this clear sight of their dream and their potential, and they're so excited. And there's the spark in the eye, like their eyes literally sparkle with it, and it is so cool. Like, you can see just the fire and the flame in them. And the thing that I hate seeing is watching that flame die. And it has been some of the things that I've seen too many times with friends, with adults, or just coming across people who you could tell that the flame was once there, but it no longer is. And I don't want to see that. And I guess I'm at the point in my life where if I can live with so much passion and so much enthusiasm for life, for my dreams, for my potential, maybe I can ignite that flame in people whose maybe it's died off in. Because the foundation to light a fire is still there, and if it hasn't been built, like, you can still light a fire. And I think that I would love to just radiate that, to live with so much passion, so much heat that it ignites that in other people's lives. So I mean, that really for me is just the biggest value, is just those people, those seeing people not give up on themselves, not give up on their dreams, not just going through life aimlessly. And I don't know, I can get off on that tangent about that, but yeah, I think that's one of the biggest driving factors for me.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that's so critical, being someone in your position, and you having the passion that you have and being able to kind of give that to other people and be able to allow people to find something in their lives that they can be as passionate about. It's really powerful. It's something that you leave the world a better place when you're able to do that for others. I'm really cool to see that come from an athlete at your level.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Cole.
Go ahead, Chad.
I was just going to ask. I mean, as I was sitting here just watching you, I'm so glad that we get to do this on video, because it's much easier to do a podcast. I've done too many without video, but just watching you and listening to you, hearing your, the changes in the tone of your voice kind of go up and down, and it just made me think: do you have any visions of being a motivational speaker or anything like that? Because man, you'd be great at it. Really, you really would.
That is probably one of the best compliments you could give me, because yes, actually, I don't talk about it a lot, but
yeah.
Through my athletic career, I just, I recognize, and I spoke to it earlier in pivoting from football to CrossFit, I recognized that I had skills and talents, physical abilities that I had been given, that I wanted to leverage, that I wanted to use. But I also have been given kind of a natural ability to communicate. It's also something that I have a passion for. I actually got a degree in communications from UW, concentration in rhetorical studies, which is essentially just, how can we better understand each other? With that, my career goal, or my lifelong goal, has always been use and leverage my athletic career as much as possible for as long as I can, to build a platform in order to speak into people's lives on a public speaking platform in a motivational realm. So yeah, that's very much a very nice compliment. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. No, I can absolutely see it. I mean, I was hoping you were going to say yes. That's exciting to me. Do you plan on using that as well to coach? Do you have any desire to be a coach?
Not so much a direct coach like like Ben does for me, right. Which I really, I don't want to discredit that, because I respect that a lot. That is a very difficult thing, by the way, for, and you guys know that coaching individually, that is, it takes a very unique and a very special person.
No, I don't want to do it either. I do what I do, but no, I agree with you. Absolutely. So much respect for Ben and those guys out there like that.
Yeah. But I think coaching from on a one-on-one perspective, no, but coaching on if you want to call it a coaching on a more broad perspective, kind of some of the way you guys do at camps, where you come in and you coach people, I would consider that coaching. Absolutely.
Right.
But I also consider that like speaking life into people, like motivating and inspiring at the same time, and I think they all kind of work hand in hand. And because of the knowledge base that you gain when you pursue one avenue or one aspect, you gain so much insight into a lot of different realms of life. You can coach people through that, whether that be called life coaching or athletic coaching or anything. Like, there is the potential to coach. So yes and no, if that answers your question correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of switching back to you as a CrossFitter now, what are your current goals? I mean, I know that there are some things up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen with CrossFit Games, even CrossFit, through the next year. It's going to be very interesting. But do you have any specific goals in mind right now?
Yeah. So, let's kind of maybe just address the elephant in the room right now in our current environment in CrossFit. The culture and the environment of CrossFit has been a little heavy-hearted over the last couple of weeks. Depending on when this airs, just currently where we stand over the last couple of weeks, it's been a little heavy-hearted. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I love the CrossFit community. It's actually, when I was choosing to pivot to CrossFit, it was made the most clear to pivot that direction because of the community. Mm-hmm. It was seeing a community of like-minded individuals, but more so people who wanted to change, who wanted to grow. And that you really get the sense of in the ethos of the CrossFit community. And that's why I love being a CrossFit athlete. It's why I love competing in the CrossFit Games. I tell people all the time, CrossFit Games athletes are not, they're not a different community. They're an extension of the CrossFit community. We're just an extension mm-hmm. of it. We're not a different community. And so I love being part of that. And so, just with the current environment, ideally what I want to see is a sport and a community that we can all be proud of. Currently, as where we stand, it was just announced yesterday that there's a new incoming owner and CEO of CrossFit, which I am very excited about. Mm-hmm. I still think I want to take some time to process everything and mm-hmm. understand what that means for the sport, but I think that gives a glimmer of hope, and I'm all about hope. That's what I want. Is I just want to see hope in people's eyes. I want to have hope in my heart, and ideally see the community be as strong as united as I know that it can be. And I think just worldwide, globally right now, we're seeing a lot of divisiveness, and if we can just come together as a group, I think everything is better and more effective when done together and on a united front. So with that, I would love to see the sport of CrossFit become something that all athletes can be proud to represent again. Currently where I stand, I am excited to come back, and I haven't really necessarily announced this publicly, but put my focus back on competing at the CrossFit Games and giving that a chance with mm-hmm. the changes that were made at the head of CrossFit. And, we go back into the more specific goals. I got into CrossFit with the sole intent to win the CrossFit Games. And that is my goal as far as my competitive goal goes. But my overall goal is not attached to the result. And we talked to that a little bit. It's not mm-hmm. necessarily attached to, I know that there are a lot of things that are outside of my control that play a factor into whether I win the CrossFit Games or not down the road. But that doesn't change who I can be and how I can inspire people along the way. Right. So, but yeah, no, every season I grind and analyze and learn and take everything that we have learned throughout the last few years of doing this to how can we build the best trajectory to win the CrossFit Games. And, I'm not afraid mm-hmm. to say that out loud. That's what I want to do. And mm-hmm. I'll live boldly there,
I want to touch on something you mentioned a little bit more there. You and a lot of other high profile Games athletes that come out over the last couple of weeks saying that they're out of the Games, and mm-hmm. unless some change was made. And things have been evolving pretty rapidly. Yes. Day to day, there's more information that comes out. There's more articles. There's new announcements, and sitting back and kind of seeing how things play out seems to be kind of important to kind of see what changes CrossFit is making. And mm-hmm. You did mention the new CEO, Eric Rosa, coming in. He's a box owner for the last decade. He's been doing CrossFit, comes from a pretty high-level position in the tech world. I'm curious, one, how much you know of him, and two, you mentioned it already, but it seems like this was a pretty positive step in the right direction for you as an athlete to say, hey, you know what? I'm willing to consider coming back to the CrossFit Games mm-hmm. this year. And two, have you spoken with other athletes about them feeling a similar way? Or is this more, I'm making the decision on my own for what I feel is best for the way that I view my role within the CrossFit community?
Yeah. So when a lot of the first with Greg Glassman, he released, I think a lot of people know that information, but he released a tweet that was just very insensitive and very, it was just wrong. There's just more allegations and things that came out in email that was released, and that one really set me off because don't accept treating people poorly. And I think that goes back to that value of just a human life, and everyone matters, right? So, and then just the continuation of it, and when things were released, it was about a week after the tweet came out. About a week later, 5 days later or so, I had announced that I will not be competing at the CrossFit Games, and just want to touch on that for those who may have not heard that, who are listening in. But at that point, that decision was made solely based off of my own decision. That was me morally not feeling like I can support a company or a group that has leadership at that realm, because I understand that leadership at the end of the day that has some effect on the rest of the community. And I guess it was sort of my statement of saying like that is not something that is his project. He owns, Greg Glassman owned CrossFit Inc. and the CrossFit Games, and I won't support that program. If it's his, and if he's the sole owner of it. And so I wanted to see CrossFit sold. I wanted to see it put into the hands of the people, who have been in the community, who care for the community, and having Eric Rosa step in, being somebody who is an affiliate owner for the last 10 years or so, and being part of the community really excited me, because I feel like he's going to bring a persona to the space that really speaks to the heart of the people. And that I'm really excited about. And I think you guys have gathered on this podcast that really matters to me. Right. So, and then as far as me being willing to come back to the games, that was not solely based off of, or that wasn't based off of other athletes and what other athletes want. That was what I believe how I should be acting, as a human being. And CrossFit's making changes. They made changes. And I want to be somebody who shows grace in life. I want to be somebody who has hope that good can come and will come. And so I think that with those changes, I do think that there is a sense of that hope, and I want to believe in that. And I will give you my trust, and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt until you show me otherwise, right? And I'm okay with that. And so that was based off of me. But as far as I have spoken to a lot of athletes over the last 2.5 weeks. There's been several athlete calls where we've just come on to hear each other out, to hear where people are at, to share our stances and perspectives. First, to touch on that has been really cool, by the way, to get on calls with all the athletes over the last couple of years. So, back in 2009, 2010, even 11 and 12, the CrossFit Games competitors were very close knit. It was that grassroots backyard competition feel still, even though it was growing. But over the last 3 years or so, it has become a very worldwide competitive space. I had a little bit of that cutthroat feeling when you get at the games. It's very competitive and high strung. And so we don't necessarily bicker and banter and hang out the same way that we used to early on in 13, 14, 15. But coming together and having athletes talk to each other the way they have over the last few weeks has been really, really cool to see. And I actually feel more united and closer to this group of athletes than I have probably any athlete group to date. And that has been really cool to see. So, but as far as the athletes go, I think that with the announcement of Eric Rosa being the new incoming owner, I think there was just a sense of relief and reprieve for a lot of people. And I think people are excited for the most part.
That's awesome. Do you guys have you heard from Eric specifically saying, I'm going to address the athletes to kind of talk about game situation, or has it been kind of a wait? I mean, it's still fairly new. It only happened yesterday. The announcement was made, but I'm curious if you guys anticipate hearing from him specifically on what's going to be happening with the games.
Yeah, we're anticipating at least hearing from him, which is, it's exciting. I think all of us are eager to just hear what's on his mind, what's on his heart. And he had made a comment that he would love to touch base at some point in time with all the athletes. And so I think we're all looking forward to that. We've also, with the not the discrepancies, but the challenges of the coronavirus and COVID throughout this year, it also is playing a factor in how the game season progressed. So the CrossFit Games staff has been in contact with us and just keeping us posted on dates and protocols and things that they're going to keep on. So I think with them being in and communicating better than they ever have, I also think that maybe Eric could potentially have the space to jump in on something there. So we'll see. I'm excited to see if we can speak with him, because I'm excited to hear what's on his mind.
Yeah, that's great. That moving in the right direction there, especially right now with the affiliates. You worry most about the affiliates, right? Who are feeling like their livelihood is at stake by being associated with CrossFit at such a time when that name could potentially be, have a lot of negativity around it.
It's interesting that you say that, because on a lot of the athlete calls that we've had, I think the thing that I've been most impressed with is a lot of the athletes that wanted to take a stand, that wanted to say, like, I don't support going to the CrossFit Games and we want to see change. They weren't doing it for the majority. They weren't doing it for their own reasons. Like they were doing it because they wanted to see change for the affiliates. And that was really cool to see. And that's, just more solidifies what I tell people all the time, that the CrossFit Games athletes are just an extension of the community. And it's because we all care so much. We all, on some form level, have been directly impacted by affiliates. It's, we either grew up from there, we came from there, or, they've been so gracious to let us train, whatever it is. Like, we're so closely tied together as this community. And I'm just really excited to see if everyone can come together, we can get rid of the divisiveness and reunite, because we're a strong community.
Yeah, strong, incredible community for sure. It's really the biggest thing that drew me in initially as well. The first time I stepped into a CrossFit gym was in 2008. My coach had just started coaching weightlifting classes there way back in the day. Yeah. So from the first moment I walked into the gym, I just knew it was something that was special and that was going to change my life forever. And as you mentioned, just the community part of it, it's so powerful that even if CrossFit at this point, the name CrossFit was to go away, I think the community would remain,
Yeah, totally.
It's become such a big part of all of our lives. We mentioned this on an earlier podcast too. Like some of my closest friends, people that we've seen marriages come out of our Power Monkey camp because of CrossFit, and jobs created, companies built, all of these things because of what CrossFit has kind of given us, the ability to kind of build this community. So I agree that, whatever iteration, whatever form it's going to take, the community is going to stick around. And that's encouraging.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, Dave, I think I'm looking forward to the question. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is going to be for this one.
I know.
It should be. We always like to end our podcast with a question here. Fairly simple, but me and Chad have a running tally on it. If you had to choose one sport or discipline to be your preferred, would it be gymnastics or weightlifting?
You guys put people on the spot with that one.
Absolutely.
I think so. I could, Dave, I'm sorry, man.
Damn it.
I'm making a comeback. I'm way behind, by the way, Cole.
So this is funny, because probably the first 3 or 4 years of me doing CrossFit, I would have said gymnastics. And the reason why is because I was a football player. I was a powerful individual, and nobody pictures a football player kicking upside down, walking for hundreds of feet on their hands, or swinging on rings. And so that was just like, I was enamored by that. That was, it's actually, muscle ups are my favorite movement in CrossFit. So maybe
I'll take that.
Yeah. But over the last 2 years, the thing that has given me the most struggle is Olympic weightlifting. And I think that's the reason why I picked that one, is because I love mastering things. I want to master a craft. And that has been the hardest thing for me to figure out and to learn and excel in and grow in. So I think I picked that one just because I want to get better at it,
Yeah,
so.
Sure. Well, I think you move incredibly well with the barbell, Cole, but if you ever need a tip or two, just let me know. I might know someone that can take a look and help you out.
Yeah, awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that.
So that's not the last question. If you're up for playing a little game, we have some random questions that we'd like to ask you. Rules are is that you can, if we come across one that you're not real comfortable with, or you don't want to answer, or you just like to hear Dave answer, then you can pass it to him and he has to answer it. Sound good?
Okay.
All right, we'll do 2 or 3, depending on how much time we have here. All right. First one is, what board game do you hate the most?
Oh, board game that I hate the most. Checkers. It's like a watered down version of chess.
True. Oh, it's been so I haven't played checkers in 20 years, maybe.
Yeah. But I do like chess a lot. I'm not good at it in any way, but it's just one of those mind games that you really got to be intentional about. So it's
For
fun.
sure. Some meditation to it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
totally.
All right, next one, and this is kind of interesting, being in the times that we're living in. But if you could rid the world of one disease, what would it be?
I don't want to be insensitive to the environment, but I think hate. I think hate is a bit of a disease. It's not that I want to say that you just have to love all the time, because I understand that can be very hard to do. But if we can just learn to communicate with each other and just understand each other, ask a question. Like, why do you think that way? Or why do you see something that way? I think that we would find that we have a lot more in common, or that we see the world more similarly than a lot of us think we do. And that we're not as divided as people are so quick to put each other into camps. And I don't like being tossed into one camp or the other. And so, I don't want to be insensitive to the world climate, but, I would love to just see hate be dissipated.
Yeah, that's a great answer. That's the motivational speaker coming out of you again there.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. If you're offered the position of mayor of your city, would you take it?
Really funny. Before 2020, no. I might now. I genuinely think, and I think it's just because, if you have a heart to serve people, don't be afraid to step into leadership positions. If you care about people, I want to see more of those individuals in leadership spaces. And, I don't want to arrogantly say that I think that I would be a good fit. I also know that I do not have the information, the knowledge to be a mayor, but it can be, you can be taught that, but it's really hard to teach people how to care for others. So yeah.
Cole, you'd be a great mayor.
2024.
That's right.
2024.
Hey, you'll still be competing in CrossFit, and you just, that'll just be your side job. The mayor will be your side job, right?
Exactly. It'll just be a side job because that would work out.
Well, Cole, man, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I love talking football. Like Dave said, maybe we need to do this again and just talk all about football. I don't know, but do you have any parting words for our listeners out there?
Honestly, I just want to thank anybody who listened, and I hope that you guys can feel my passion in my words and my enthusiasm for life. And, I hope wherever you are at, whatever you're facing, you can just see a little bit of hope, that you see a little hope in life, that good will come and good is there. And again, just thank you for anybody who did listen and took the time to be with us today.
Well, there it is, guys. And like Cole said, thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. Be sure to head over to PowerMonkeyFitness.com for services and upcoming events. Power Monkey Camp is coming up, so please look into that. We'd love to see you there. And Cole's been there before. Hopefully we'll see him back as well. Check out our Instagram pages also for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. Until next time, thanks for listening.